Hi, we're going to talk about how to find volumes of solids. This one deals with pretty basic solids. A volume of a solid is the amount of space it occupies. This is how we generally understand it. And volume deals with something called capacity, and we measure volume in cubic units. So we have these five solids here. I'm going to write their names and rewrite the formulas because some of them are slightly different. So first of all, this is called the rectangular prism. And basically what you do here is you multiply length times width times height to find the volume. Then we have, this is a rectangular pyramid. And the volume here is going to be 1/3 times the area of the base, which happens to be a rectangle, times length times width of the base times the height. Then we have something called a cylinder, which is right here, and the formula for the volume here is pi r squared h. We also have a cone. The volume here is going to be 1/3 times pi r squared h. And finally we have a sphere. And the formula for the volume here is going to be 4/3 pi r cubed. Let's take a look. So, find the volume of the rectangular prism below. Volume is 4 times 10 times 3. It doesn't really make any difference which one is what you're going to consider the length, which one is the width, which one is the height. You are going to have 3 different dimensions here, and that's what you're going to multiply. So this is going to give us 120 cubic inches. Find the volume of the rectangular pyramid below. Let's see. We have length, we have width, and this number here is going to be our height. And then the volume is going to be 1/3 times 6 times 4 times 8. And that's going to give us 64 cubic units. Find the volume of the cylinder. So for the cylinder we have the height, which is 40. We have the radius, which is 25. These are all inches. And then to find the volume, we're going to multiply pi by radius square by the height. Right? So we're gonna have to write it, well, we don't have to, but we will write it in 2 different ways. Because we can write it with pi in the answer, and we can also write it with, hold on one second, I'm trying to multiply the numbers here. So if I want to just multiply that and not touch pi, it's going to be 25,000 pi cubic inches. Or you can approximate that and multiply that number by pi, and then you're going to get, hold on, my calculator doesn't want to cooperate with me. 25,000 times pi is going to give us, or 78,539.82 cubic inches. I'm giving you another example with a cylinder, because here we have the diameter given to us as 12 centimeters. The height is 8 centimeters. So you need to remember the formula uses the radius. So remember, the radius is going to be half of the diameter, so it is 6 centimeters. Everything else is going to be the same. Volume equals pi times the radius squared times the height. So it is going to be, if you just multiply the numbers and leave pi alone, that's going to be 180. No, hold on. It's 36 times 8. It's, I'm sorry, 288 pi cubic centimeters as an exact value. Or if you actually multiply that, then you are going to get, I don't know what my calculator is trying to do, or maybe it's just me, or 904.78 cubic centimeters if you want to round it. I have cones. So the first cone has the height of 18, has the radius equals 7. The formula is 1/3 times pi times the radius squared, which is 7 squared, times the height, that's 18. And now if you just multiply the numbers, then it's going to be 294 pi. Okay, we don't have specific units, so it's cubic units. Or if you want to approximate this, then you multiply this answer by pi, and you're going to get 923.63 cubic units. With this one, you have the height of 12 inches. This is the diameter here, which is 8 inches. We need the radius, so the radius is going to be 4 inches, half of the diameter. So now our volume is going to be 1/3 times pi times radius squared, which is 4 squared, times the height, that's 12. And we're going to multiply the numbers. Something's going to be times pi, right? Oh, hold on. It's going to give us 64 pi cubic inches, or you're going to multiply 64 by pi, and that is going to give us, once we do it, 201.06 cubic inches. Sphere. So this sphere here has the radius. One thing that's easy about a sphere has only one number that you have to put in, which is the radius. So the radius here is 9, then the volume is going to be 4/3 pi times radius cubed. Okay, and we multiply the numbers, and we're going to get here 972 pi cubic centimeters, or if we actually multiply that by pi, we are going to get 3053.63 cubic centimeters. Need to be careful with this sphere because this is the diameter here. Okay, so the radius is going to be half of that, which is 21. And then the volume is going to be 4/3 pi times radius squared, radius cubed, that's 21 cubed. And then we just do the math here. And we're going to get 12,348 pi cubic centimeters. Or, if we multiply that by pi, we're going to get 38,792.39 cubic centimeters. We're going to deal with composite solids. So the idea behind finding volumes of composite solids is going to be you're going to break it down into parts that are going to be basic solids, find their volumes, and then you add them together. So with this first one, we have a cube, which is essentially a rectangular prism, and then we have a rectangular pyramid on top of that. So for the cube, the volume is going to be 8 times 8 times 8, and that's going to be 512. Then for the pyramid, the volume is going to be 1/3 times the base, the height, multiply the length and the width of the base, which is 8 by 8, and then multiply by the height, which is right here 3 centimeters, and that's going to give us 64. So the total volume is going to be 512 plus 64, which is 576 cubic centimeters. Our next solid is made up of a cylinder and the cone on top. So for the cylinder, the volume is going to be pi r squared h. So our radius here is 40, our height is 50, and this is the height of the cone. We're going to get to that in a moment. It is pi times radius squared times the height. So it is, in terms of pi, going to be 80,000 pi. Right? It's 40 squared times 50, it's 80,000. Okay, I'm going to leave it in terms of pi for now. The cone on top has the following: 1/3 times radius squared, which is 40 squared, times the height, which is 30. So it's going to be, hold on a second, 40 squared times 30 divided by 3. It's going to give us 16,000 pi. So our total volume is going to be, add those two numbers together, so it's going to be 96,000 pi, or we can approximate that, and that's going to give us 301,592.89 cubic units. Okay. Right. A couple more like that. This one has a cylinder with a semicircle on top of that. So let's do cylinder first. The cylinder has the radius 5, the height 7. So the volume is going to be, I'm just going to find a decimal here. I'm not going to leave it in terms of pi. So the volume is going to be 1/3 times pi. No, I'm sorry, there is no 1/3. So pi times radius squared, which is 5 squared, times the height. So if I type it in the calculator, that's going to give me 549.7787. I'm going to round it a little bit more than 2 decimal places because when I add it together, I want to be more accurate. A semicircle, it's called hemisphere. So it's going to be, the volume is going to be 1/2 of the volume of a sphere, and that is going to be the 1/2 times 4/3 times pi times radius cubed, which is 5 cubed. Okay, so this is going to be that number, so 1/2 of 4/3 pi r cubed. So when we multiply that, let me type it all in. Pi times 5 cubed. This is all going to give us 261.7993. So when I take that number and add it with the other number, so let's do plus 549.7787, that's going to give us 811.58 cubic millimeters. What is that solid in 12? What is it made up? So you have a rectangular prism here, and you have a half of the cylinder. So a rectangular prism, Oh, let's make sure we understand this first. This here is going to be the diameter. So 9 is the diameter of our cylinder. So the radius here is going to be 4.5. Okay. So the prism is easy. That's going to be length times width times height. It is 42 times 9 times 35. And 42 times 9 times 35 is going to give us 13,230. For the cylinder, so we're slicing cylinder in half. So half cylinder. We're going to get 1/2. So it's going to be 1/2 times pi r squared h. The radius is 4.5 times the height. The height here is going to be this distance, which is 42. So it's pi times 4.5 squared times 42. We're taking half of that. I'm just going to do the decimal here. It's getting a little crazy here with numbers. We're just going to get the decimal approximation here. Okay, so 1/2 times pi times 4.5 squared times 42. This is going to give us 1,335.96. I can leave it accurate to 2 decimal places here because this does not have any decimal places after the decimal point. And then we just add together. So the total volume is going to be these two numbers added together plus 13,230, and that's going to give us 14,565.96 cubic centimeters. Okay. Last thing we have here is a couple applications. So an aquarium is 4 feet deep by 10 feet wide by 5 feet tall. It was partially drained for cleaning. Currently holds 80 cubic feet of water. How many cubic feet do we need to add to fill it completely? So first of all, the capacity, which is going to be the volume of the rectangular prism that the aquarium essentially is 4 times 10 times 5. So 4 times 10 times 5 is going to be 20 times 10, which is going to be 200 cubic feet, right? So this is the capacity of the tank. Currently it holds 800. So 200 minus 80, holds 80, I'm sorry. 200 minus 80 is going to be 120 cubic feet need to be added. Okay, and that's it. All right, and the last example here is when you talk about the capacity of a car's engine, you talk about the capacity of its cylinders. So a particular car has 4 cylinders. The interior diameter of each cylinder is 80 millimeters and its interior height is 90 millimeters. And we'll want to find the engine's capacity. So what we are going to do is we are going to calculate the total volume as 4 times, and then you have volumes of cylinders. So pi radius squared. So we have the diameter of 80, that means the radius is 40. So 40 squared times the height, which is 90. And when we do all these, we are going to get our volume, my apologies, our volume for that. So 4 times pi, 4 times pi times 40 squared times 90, and all that, when you multiply that, is going to give us, now we are going to get this in cubic millimeters, so it's going to be a pretty big number, but it's going to be 1,809,557.37 cubic millimeters. Okay, this can also be converted to liters, but that's not anything we are going to worry about right now, and this is how you do these problems with volumes.